Hello, everybody. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. If you've watched my earlier videos, we talked about the risk of severe weather taking place in and around the southern Great Lakes region, and that has fired off. Storms have triggered here as we have seen the sun set on our day. Now, there is a lot of activity going on right now. We'll get you to the very latest as we start out, and then we'll talk a little bit about the setup that we have going on for tonight. Again, here is a look at the bigger picture as we look across the region of the Great Lakes. A cold front working its way out of the Dakotas, where we have blizzard-like conditions today, is bringing cold air, slamming it into some warm, moist air. We have some turning in the atmosphere. We have a lot of energy there and some spin, and therefore there's a risk for tornadoes. The yellow outlined counties that you see here that do include the greater Chicago area are under a tornado watch for tonight. So that tornado watch has been placed in any of these areas that you see here, basically from the Paxton area straight up through the metro, Evanston, into Chicago and out to the west, where we do have active tornado warnings, and there are 3 of them. Let's go through them. Here is the most recent tornado warning. The time is current. It is 5:58 as we cross into central daylight time right now. Here is a look at the storm system prompting the warning. I will loop the last hour or so of radar data. You can see the storm motion is moving to the northeast. So the individual cells moving north and easterly, and you can actually see in the reflectivity data here that there is that spin on the south side of the system. You can actually just kind of witness this counterclockwise rotation. Let me get a different color crayon here for my pencil. Now, if you're joining me and you do have a question, please go ahead and feel free to ask. I'd be happy to do my best to answer them. If you're not sure who this cat is, my name is Hutch Johnson. I am a meteorologist. I've been on-air broadcaster for the last 26 to 30 years, and I've done my stint at teaching meteorology to college-level students, as well as talking a lot about weather, doing some research meteorology for 5 years as well. So there's some spinning storms working their way into that Compton area right now. If you're in the path of this storm, the first thing you want to know is to follow your tornado procedures, stay informed with your local area authorities and National Weather Service offices as well. But here's the very latest. Right through Brooklyn, we see a little bite taken out of the storm. We're going to look at the latest scan right here. West Brooklyn to Compton to the Paw Paw area. This storm system here with the pink, what you're looking at there is that's the hail core. So we got a hail core on this side, and then where we have the bite taken out of the storm right here, this little bite taken out, that is a echo-free region. That is most likely where we have some rotation. There could also be some right here. Now we'll turn on some velocity data so we can take a peek at what we are seeing with regards to that. This is a radar-indicated tornado. I will put up the warning from the National Weather Service, and what you're going to see here at the top, we're expecting the potential from this tornado-warned storm of 2-inch diameter hail. If you saw my video earlier, there's certainly the risk for some sizable hail from these storms. And this is what the Weather Service says. This storm moving from northwestern LaSalle County into northern and central Illinois to eastern Lee County as well until 6:45. So this storm is warned for the next 40 minutes or so. Latest radar from the National Weather Service says it's 7 miles northwest of Mendota, moving to the east at 15 miles per hour. You saw the whole cluster of storms having a little bit more of a northeasterly bent to them. The hail and the tornado from this storm could be upwards of 2 inches in diameter for that hail, so keep that in mind as well. And this is radar indicated rotation. So there will be a few things to keep in mind as this storm is approaching your area. If you are in the warned area, that's this highlighted box that you see right here. In that area, you'll want to seek shelter in an interior room. You want to stay away from windows and get to the lowest floor possible. Again, that's what we have going on with regards to the Chicago area. As you take a look, these are moving in on DeKalb. All of these storms are showing some rotation. We have another active tornado warning. One had just been allowed to expire. This one is for the Atkinson area, as this storm also moving off to the east at a pretty good clip. Let's take a look at this tornado warning from the National Weather Service. The hail, at least when the warning was issued, was expected to be upwards of 3/4 of an inch, as you can see on the text from my friends at the National Weather Service office in the Quad Cities of Iowa and Illinois. And this is Illinois, I should say, and this is a look at what we have there. The warnings for Henry County in the eastern parts, as well as northwestern Bureau County, and it's until 7 o'clock. A confirmed tornado was located on the ground over Anawan, or 10 miles north west or north of the Kewaunee area. It's moving east at 30 miles per hour. So these storms are rotating. This one has a confirmed tornado, and you can actually see the bite taken out of the storm here, this little area right here. Now we'll go ahead and turn on, after the circle, the velocity data here and take a peek at what we're seeing with regards to storm relative velocity. Where we have greens next to reds, and we're looking at Doppler radar data, the radar is over here near Eldridge, okay? So the green indicates that we have motion toward the radar. That's right here blowing this way, and the red would be motion away from the radar right here. So there is your rotation, and we have a confirmed tornado on the ground. So if you are in these communities, this particular tornado and tornado warned storm moving off to the east, it's not moving fast. You can see the motion and the rotation still evident on the brand new scan that's just been uploaded here at 6:05 from the National Weather Service Doppler radar. As we take a look at the path of the storm, it is right along and just north of I-80. But I caution you this. This is where we're seeing the rotation on the radar, but the radar is looking up and into the clouds. So where it is precisely on the ground can be variable when you look at this. This storm also has a history. If you see these little triangles over here near Geneseo, 1.2-inch hail reported from that area, from those storms. 1-inch hail to the north from those cells moving through. So we have an active tornado warning. This does include the Princeton area. Let me get you the motion on this particular thunderstorm warning here. The storm is moving off to the east. I think it's at 15 miles per hour also, but let's take a look at that one more time to see what their measurement is. The storm's moving east at 30 miles per hour. So here are a few areas that may be seeing the potential for having this storm move in the next few moments. Again, this storm moving east at 30 miles per hour. So we'll go ahead and clock this out from its current location where the rotation is, and we'll move this out. We'll set it up at 30 miles per hour or so. And these are some cities that will be in the path of this particular storm. In the straight line view here. Let's go ahead and turn that off. My apologies to you as I put the right tool on here. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we'll go 30 miles per hour along this radio right here. We'll put in 35 miles per hour because sometimes these things can speed up just a little bit to give you an idea. Now, this is a look. I'll slide the window down here. We're talking the Wyanett area within 28 minutes, the Princeton area within about 38 minutes. Will likely be seeing this storm approaching your area. So again, seek shelter in that interior room. Stay away from windows. I'll look on here, but if you put in where you're watching from, or maybe tag them and let them know what's going on here. There's certainly a lot of active weather going on and moving into the Chicago area. Hi, Doe Rich 33 family and friends in the Chicago area. Yes, all of these storms are heading in that general direction of Chicago. We'll give you a little bit more perspective here as I get my tools turned off. We'll turn the reflectivity or the regular radar data back on here for you. Again, active tornado warnings for the Princeton area and the storms that are moving north of the Mendota area and moving up towards Pawpaw, and right here on the I-39 corridor, crossing over that right now. That is a tornado warned storm. This particular storm up here, a little bit closer to the Chicago metro area, and you can actually see right over Hutch's shoulder here where that is. So again, here is the setup, folks. We do have a very warm and humid air mass down to the south down here. The temperatures are plotted in these little red numbers down here near Canto, down here and just in the south portion of the area. We're seeing temperatures in the 60 to 75 degree range, 77 degrees right now out near the Canto area. It also is showing that we have the southerly flow out in the south side of the storm, at really kind of a warm front taking place here. And when we look up to the north here, look at these temperatures. Holy smokes and a bucket of cheese. Look at this. We have coming out of the Dubuque area, 53 degree air. Dew points are in the 30s. Up north, Iowa City and Cedar Rapids, it's 48 degrees there. So you have 40 degree air that is extremely dry, clashing right now and being mixed as this storm system works its way through, with air that has temperatures in the near 80 degree range. Dew points are in the 50s to 60s. We have 60 degree dew points in Gary, Indiana. As we look up into Chicago, there is a lot of energy in the atmosphere with this particular system. As we look off to the north and to the east, this system is cold enough for Rochester, Minnesota, for instance. It's 27 degrees there. So this is going to bring a risk of some severe weather right now with ongoing tornado warnings and a tornado watch for the area. And also we do have the risk for some very large hail with these storms as well as we head into the evening hours. We'll go ahead and take a peek now at what we have with regards to the Storm Prediction Center and their outlook for today. That has been updated, so I'll go ahead and pull this up here. Storm predictions. Now let me just clear off some of this other data off of the screen. We'll just do this in real time because that's what we're doing, is kind of covering this in real time. If you have a question, if you have a comment, or if you have some sort of report to pass along, please do so. Yes, the storms are heading towards Chicago. There are a couple of active tornado warnings, and we'll see how long these go, but models do show that this activity will be moving through the Chicago area and on in towards Fort Wayne a little bit later. As we head into the late evening, we could even see some strong storms developing down to the southern part of Illinois as well, and southern parts of Indiana as we head through the evening hours. So I'm going to pull and turn off the active warning data for the current time frame here. Now we're going to put up the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, and this is where we'll get a chance to see the risk of tornadoes and their categorical risk. And let's show that first. We do have an increase to an enhanced risk of severe weather here from Louisville on into Cincinnati, Ohio, as we look off towards Chicago and the Great Lakes where things are breaking out right now, into northern Illinois, northwesternmost Indiana. We have another area of an enhanced risk, is what it's called, of severe weather. That includes all the way from Milwaukee south through Chicago, where we have the storms taking place at this particular time. So we are not seeing anything firing down on these southern storms, down on the southern flank that is worthy of a watch at this particular time. Oh, let me see if I can switch the radar over. Yeah, looking in on the Evansville area out towards Valparaiso and also Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati. We are not seeing the storms firing yet. They are expected to start on the more western side here. We'll go over the forecast in a second. Again, we have hot, humid air on the south side of the storm with south winds causing that moist and humid air to flow northward. And we have a turning of the winds along a warm front here near Chicago, near northern parts of Indiana. And that the change in wind direction in that area and the upper level flows very strong from the southwest is causing spin and overturning in the atmosphere. With the rising motion, those rolling currents of air can get bent down toward the ground, and that gives us our risk of tornadoes. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center had this area highlighted. Now, what does this orange area mean? Inside the orange area, that is an enhanced risk for severe weather for this area tonight. The Storm Prediction Center says that all parts of Northeast Illinois will be in this area, and we are expecting huge hail potential from these storms tonight. 2 inches or greater could be possible because of the energy that's in the atmosphere when we have clashing air masses out there. So this is the setup, and these are the areas we're concerned about with the storms as we head into the evening hours tonight. Now, here are some active storm reports. We do have a 1.7 inch hail report out here in the area along Highway 52, it looks like. So we did get some fairly large hail there, some 1 inch hail. 1 inch hail, by the way, is determined to be severe sized hail, where we can certainly see damage from those types of storms. Here's a look at the Chicago radar. Let me try to get this on. There we go. Okay, so the Chicago area is now starting to see these move on. Now, if you look at the loop from the Chicago radar, there's still a ways out. Notice that trend, just a little bit more of a northeasterly tilt to those rotating thunderstorms that are out there that have prompted the warnings in the areas just off to the west of Chicago. So if we slip over to the Joliet radar here real quickly, we could get a better view of these storms, and we may even get a better view still from another radar that's a little bit closer. Taking a look at these storms, these are all moving to the north and east or east, and we do have several of them that are showing signs, at least on the reflectivity data here, but we have these inflow notches, if you will, and we do have these storms down here with tornado warned activity going on, and confirmed tornadoes on the grounds out to the west of the Chicago area. from one of the storms, okay? So these are dangerous storms. The pink areas would be where we have that risk of the hail being the greatest, and then these areas on the bottom side with these little hooks is what we call them, hook echoes, where we have that risk of seeing some more of the intense rotating part of the storm. So let's take a look at the rotation in the latest base velocity scan. This will help you see, and we're again looking from the radar that is located over here, and it's showing that we definitely do have some changing of the wind direction as we go through the area. Where you see the bright greens next to the bright reds, that is an indication of some fairly heavy rotation here. Now let's see, I do believe that I can, let me turn off a couple of these things, including the SPC. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and look at the SPC's risk for tornadoes tonight and just kind of review that real quickly with you. So if we take a look at the tornado risk area, number one, we're expecting very large hail, but the greatest risk of tornado has been up to 10% from 5% earlier in the day in these two areas of concern. So the Chicago area and points in northern Illinois. And then when we go down towards Evansville in the southern flank of Illinois, all the way out to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and into Louisville, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, Ohio. These areas of yellow, that is a 10% risk of tornadoes. What does that mean? Well, that means that any point on this map, you have a 10% chance of seeing a tornado within about 30 miles rather of that point. So we could see a few tornadoes in this area here if the storms fire. We could see some up to the north as well, as in fact we have. So now let's go ahead and turn off this data. But I do want to point out, well, I'm changing my mind in real time. I've done that before. Hail, looking at the hail risk. There is a hatched area from Chicago all the way down through this curved area, and there is a intense risk, an increased risk of hail in these areas in excess of 2 inches in diameter tonight because of the lift in the atmosphere. So that is the setup. Now I can turn this data off so we can look more clearly at what's going on the radar now. And then we'll turn off the SPC data. We'll get back over here to the storms and show you the active reflectivity data here as we're looking in on these storms that are working their way towards the Chicago area. Right now, they're having the hail core from basically Compton and Sublette on the south side of these storms here, by the way. This part down here, the south side is where you're going to have the spin, the inflow. The top side where you have the pinks there, that is the area where we have the hail risk for the storm. So moving into DeKalb right now, and the Sycamore area, Maple Park, we have rotating thunderstorms, and I'll go ahead and turn the active tornado warnings back on again so you can see the active warnings with regards to which ones have been warned for tornadoes. And we do have this storm here, the Sublette storm that's working its way up through Compton as a tornado warning that continues for this storm. 2-inch diameter hail is the tag the National Weather Service has put on this particular storm. And the latest information from them just moments ago was that the storm capable of the tornado is located from Sublette to Compton, just as we showed you on the radar minutes ago or moments ago, and it's moving in an easterly direction at 25 miles per hour. So I'll zoom out, get that stuff off the map. We'll go ahead and show you. Here is this area with the bite taken out of the storm. This whole area here is rotating, okay? And there are these little notches or little hooks in there. And then we'll have to turn this off and look at the velocity data to see if we can pinpoint where the greatest rotation is showing up in the storm. So right here over Compton, where we see the brighter reds and the greens, that's where we're seeing some spin in the storm right here. That does not mean that's exactly where the tornado is on the ground, but up at the cloud level, the radar can calculate the motion towards or away from the radar, and that is where we're seeing that rotation. So near Compton, north of Peapod, right at the I-39 corridor with Highway 30, that's where it looks like it is right now as it continues to work its way through and off to the east-northeast, and it's moving at that clip of about 30 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and draw the trajectory of that storm. Let's make sure that trajectory looks okay by looping the radar data. And yeah, it does. It does look pretty good. We'll put the speed on that at about 33 miles per hour just to give it a little bit more. Sometimes they do speed up. So if you are in the Savannah and Savannah Grove area within about 7 to 12 minutes, that storm will be on top of you. Seek shelter, interior room, lowest floor. Put as many walls between you and this storm as you possibly can. If you are in a mobile home, a manufactured home, you need to get out of structures like that into something more sturdy and more structurally sound, something attached to the foundation. This storm will be off in that Hinkley area by the time we get to another 30 minutes from right now, which should put that at about 6:45 to 6:50 p.m. So still some pretty tight rotation showing up with the storm. This one has a confirmed report of some hail in the order of 1.7 inches in diameter and 1 inch diameter hail as well. Checking in on the other storm that is capable of tornado. I believe this one had the confirmed tornado moments ago. Let's take a look at the rotation on that one. I'm going to go ahead and walk this through step by step on the radar display so we could see the tornado warned part. It was near the Onawan area and the Atkinson area. That is now drifting off to the east-northeast. It's up here not far from Hoople and New Bedford. It's more on that northerly flank where we're seeing some of those rotating parts of the storm. That storm does have a history as well of some over 1 inch diameter hail as well. Cindy says have some family in the Valparaiso, Indiana area. And we also are saying, hi to a lot of folks from the northern plains. And thanks for joining me on this live update of the severe weather outbreak that's taking place. Right now, it's all south of Rockford, south of Beloit. It's moving off to the east. It is heading in the general direction of Chicago. And so Aurora, Illinois, Hinkley, you guys are going to be seeing those storms first. There is a little rotating cell right here north of the Waterman area. If we go ahead and take a look at the reflectivity data back on that again. Let's see what we're looking at there. Yeah, there, see this little notch out of the storm moving through this area south of DeKalb. That could very well be, when you're seeing a couple of different indications, this would be one of them. That's called a hook echo. And then when we also saw the velocity structure there, that storm is rotating pretty good, moving into DeKalb. Now, in DeKalb, you're seeing the lightning strikes there. You're getting the very heavy rain. You're getting the pink. That would be the hail core that's making its way into your area. And then once that moves through, there is that rotating part of the storm on the south side. So you want to keep your eyes and ears on for a potential update to a warning on that particular storm working its way through. The entire area, by the way, here in orange, from Dixon through the Ashton area and through Rochelle, we're seeing, and Amboy is also included. That's a severe thunderstorm warning. That is for large hail, close to 2 inches in diameter, potentially, with wind gusts to 60 miles per hour. Oh, there's that tornado warning right there. We just told you about it moments ago. The National Weather Service has issued that tornado warning. Here it is. If you are in DeKalb on the south side of town, this area here with the bite taken out of the storm, that is called a hook echo. Hook echoes are one indication. And here's one of the things I like to try to explain this stuff. But if you have rotation in the cloud and the cloud is doing this, centrifugal force will take things like hail. See that heaviest hail core right there? There's a strong updraft that's spinning like this. And as it's spinning, as it goes up, larger raindrops and hailstones can be thrown out of that rotation. And you get what looks like this weak echo in the storm. That's what this is. That is a hook echo right here. Oftentimes, not every time, oftentimes if there is a tornado, you're going to see a structure similar to this. Then if we take this location right here that shows this core rotation right over Afton Center, or the what I should say is the hook echo, and we go ahead and turn on the velocity data, and we're going to look at what's called storm relative velocity, and in the exact same area, just north of Waterman. How far north of Waterman? Well, let's measure that for you. As we go north of Waterman, the core center of the rotation looks to be 4.5 miles north of you. So that is the area of rotation. It is co-located or in the same spot as that hook echo that we just showed you as well. So this storm rotating, dangerous, and as far as I know from the latest reading from the Weather Service, this is a radar indicated tornado. That is correct. And this storm is moving off to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. The individual thunderstorm cells in here moving more in a northeasterly direction. And the southern side of the storm where that inflow notch is, and the inflow into the storm, that warm, moist air that's feeding and fueling these storms, can kind of continue to develop down to the south as these storms progress. And that can give them more of an easterly looking trajectory. This one's moving northeast. So let's go ahead and go time this out for you folks. If you're in Maple Park, if you are on the north side of this storm, I need just one moment here. Okay, there we go. Got to get some of that stuff off of the screen for you. Now, here's that rotating part of the storm, and that one is moving off to the north and to the east. Let's get on the right storm. And we will project this storm moving out northeast. We're going to put it in at about... Okay, here are some cities that'll be in the path of this particular storm. Maple Park, 20 minutes or less. Troxel, 20 minutes or less. Meredith, about 20 to 25 minutes. So again, in these areas, if you're in the path of this storm, and that cone that you see there is where the storm will most likely be drifting over, including Nottingham Woods, as well as Elburn there in about 34 minutes. Those areas will have the best chance at seeing some of the rotating part of the storm move right over the area. So again, it's moving off to the northeast, moving at about 30 miles per hour. We do have some shear or spin with the storm that's working its way in, and that's what we're seeing with that particular storm. And that is right on the doorstep of the Chicago metro area. So as the crow flies right now, let's go ahead and take a look at that. How far away from Chicago are these storms? Now, these storms moving off in a little bit more of a northeasterly direction here, but if this is the path of the storm, this does put them right into right on the shore there. The distance there is about 58 miles. They're moving at about 30 miles per hour. So before a couple of hours, we're talking about an hour to an hour and a half, these storms moving into the Chicago area. Also, if you are in areas south of the Chicago metro area, we do have that possibility for some storms moving in. We have active tornado warnings here in the Princeton area. And a look at this over the last few scans, I can tell you, just looking at the velocity here, that we're not seeing it as robust with its rotation on that particular storm. I might want to get a different radar view of this particular storm. Let's use Davenport's radar. That's a little closer. The other one is a little bit farther away. So I like to grab the closest radar I can to see. Yeah, there's still some rotation showing up with the cell here that's not far from Princeton. I will go ahead and rock the radar data back and forth, and you can see there is where this storm did produce a confirmed tornado on the ground. You see the bright reds right here where my hand is. That was near Atkinson. It was near Anawan, and then watch where that moved. Watch where that moved. It moved more north, and it looks like it's dissipating just a bit. So that could be some good news for these areas, but it isn't far. That rotating part of the storm, that couplet is what we call it, moving toward the Manlius area, the Highway 40 corridor there, as it works its way off to the east. And we'll get an update from the National Weather Service on this, on their latest 1-inch diameter hail now. It's located basically about 13 miles west of Princeton, moving east at about 30 miles per hour. This storm remains dangerous, and right now it's radar indicated tornado with that storm there. So that's what's going on right now in and around the Chicago area. I want to give you a little taste of what's going on. We're going to back off and take a look at this active warning too. This is for DeKalb County. This is until 7:15. So for the next 45 minutes, storm capable of producing a tornado moving east at 20 miles per hour, located near Pawpaw and Shabana. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And working its way off to the east at 25 to 30 miles per hour. So here's this one, and the couplet with this one located up here just north of the Pawpaw area and the Shabona area. If I rock this, you can get a feel for where this couplet is. We're looking at the greens next to the reds here and where it's moving and what direction it's moving. And it is moving east-northeast, so it's almost following the highway corridor here along Highway 30 as it works its way off to the east. So still some dangerous storms out there, both capable of hail and both capable of significant hail, I should say, well over an inch in diameter, as well as the tornado risk. So a couple of warned storms here not far from DeKalb. This one here continues near Waterman and north. There's your couplet with that one. This is a farther away radar. Let me get you to a closer radar here. Let's look at the Lockport radar. This one might be a little bit, yeah, look at that couplet. That might be the strongest one that we have on the radar display right now. This is the one that we were looking at with the huge hook echo showing up on it. That storm system working its way. It is just south of DeKalb right now. That storm system, as the crow flies, it's about 8 miles, 7.5 miles due south of DeKalb on 23. The storm is moving east, northeast, and it's moving at about 30 miles per hour. So this particular storm, from where the rotating couplet is moving along this parallel here. Let's put some cities on the path. I'm going to put it in at 33 miles per hour for its speed of movement, east, northeast. And this puts it near Troxel in about 10 minutes. Okay, I'm increasing the time a little bit. We want you to get into a safe place there. Meredith within about 15 to 20 minutes for you. Nottingham Woods within around 20 to 25 minutes, and on towards Wasco. By around we get to about a half hour. North Aurora, Illinois, upwards of 35 minutes, and Geneva by around 40 minutes as well. So a dangerous storm that is pushing in on the western suburbs of the Chicago area as we head into the evening hours now at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Watching from Grand Forks, 7 inches of snow fell in the northern plains. As we take a look at the radar here, I want to show you more of a regional setup of what we have going on here. It's like, well, I got to turn off some of my severe storm tools. Do you see what's moving in towards Rochester? That's snow. So we have the tornado risk, a severe thunderstorm risk here in the northern reaches of Illinois, southern parts of Wisconsin. And we do have a risk down south and out east towards Fort Wayne, Indiana tonight as things go a little bit later. The risk continues. A blizzard took place in Fargo, Grand Forks today, and those areas saw anywhere from a couple of inches of snow on up to about a foot of snow just south of Grand Forks and just north of Fargo, with winds that gusted to 60 miles per hour. So dangerous travel up there. Now they are setting up for a wind chill advisory in that area, where wind chills will be around 30 degrees below zero tonight. So you have a icebox cold air mass heading out of Minnesota and heading toward this area. So what is a risk of severe thunderstorm type weather? Now by morning, it's going to slap you in the face with a batch of cold air. And yes, some of you, particularly north into Wisconsin, will have a chance at seeing some measurable snow and very gusty and cold winds, as we'll see these temperatures that are now in the 60s and 70s drop like a 2-ton heavy thing as we head into your hump day on Wednesday. So this storm system, you can see the cold front associated with it, that trailing all the way back into Colorado as we head into the evening hours there. And this is impacting the central plains with some severe weather. I am starting to see what could be the initialization of a few thunderstorms out down to the south near Cape Girardeau. That's what we'll be watching for in that area. No watch has been issued yet by the Storm Prediction Center. Maybe a little bit of capping going on in the atmosphere. Let's go ahead and take a look real quickly at the forecast from one of the most recent models. We'll go to a convective allowing model here, a CAM, and take a look at the HRRR, the rapid refresh model here. We'll switch this over to the a look at the composite reflectivity, shall we? Okay, let me turn off some of this other data on the map for the time being, turning off the watches and warnings and turning off some of this other fun stuff that we have turned on here. And now we can get a more clear look at the future radar. Now, this is the future radar. Notice that near Springfield, Illinois, Missouri, we're showing a model here that says, oh, there's going to be thunderstorms in this area as we go into the 7 o'clock hour. So here's a look at the time frame. Now up at the top, you'll see that at 6 o'clock. Well, it's already 6 o'clock. Did the radar show this? Let's take a look at the radar real quick. I don't believe it did show any of that thunderstorm activity forming yet in that area. Just a little bit. So there's a little initialization, and the model isn't too far off. That's a good sign. So when we see a model that's initializing like that, that's not bad. So it's not quite as robust as the model was showing, but we'll go back now to the forecast model and show you the timing of the storms for areas. Oh, we got a tornado reported not far from Chicago. We'll get back to that in a second. Let's take a look at the forecast here. Okay, those storms race. I mean race. By the time we get to 10 o'clock, they're zipping through St. Louis, Missouri, and into southern Illinois. And look at what's going on in Indianapolis and Cincinnati. So the instability in the atmosphere allows storms to really pop off as we get some support from the upper levels of the atmosphere here. And when that happens, these storms will fire off. And these two will bring a risk of tornadoes tonight, late, okay, nocturnal style. And there will be a risk of some very large hail with these storms as we go through the night, still in excess of 2 inches. Let's see, I got a question here. Is there a normal path or direction to a tornado? Rich 33. Most tornadoes, not all, most tornadoes track to the northeast. And that's just simply because of the way storms typically form and rotate here, and the average movement of the jet stream over our lower 48. So yes, but that's not always the case, so we can't use it as a static rule. Now, notice that the storms that were supposed to be moving through Chicago, by the time we get to 10 o'clock tonight, they're over the big lake, right? And then as we put this into motion, just a couple more frames here, look what happens near Indianapolis and points south, and look what's going on up to the north. Now, I think I'll go ahead and put this on a winter weather radar. That's kind of fun to see here, the precipitation type, and it'll change it over. You can see how the cold air slapping into Green Bay, Oshkosh, and all the way down into northern Missouri. It's going to snow all the way south into Topeka, Kansas, and point south. Ice storm potential for areas on that transition zone between Quincy, Illinois, and Bloomington, Illinois. Then check this out as we continue this through. The severe thunderstorm risk will continue into the deep hours of the night and go out pretty quickly as we get towards around 4 a.m. But then when you rise and shine in Milwaukee, Oshkosh, and Chicago, the wind will be northerly, and gone will be the 60s and 70s, and hello to the 20s and 30s, and even some teens up in the northern reaches of Wisconsin. So that's the forecast track for this storm, and when you may expect storms from Springfield, Missouri on into St. Louis, and then blossoming through southern Illinois and into Ohio as well for tonight. And that's why we have that risk. I really appreciate all of the kind words out here. All of you are sharing with me. This is kind of live coverage. Again, if you haven't heard of me, my name is Hutch Johnson. I am a meteorologist who's been on the air in the northern plains for 30 years, educated in the mountains of Colorado in meteorology, where I did study and work with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for a few years out there. Did some research meteorology. I've been on the air for the better part of 30 years, and about 20 years of teaching meteorology at the college level, some experience there as well. So I like talking about the weather. I like bringing the meteorological approach to this and telling you what the models show us. Models are not the only answer to forecasts, though, but they do help us a lot with timing. But they're not always too accurate when it comes to thunderstorms, right? You've heard those days when we meteorologists say there's going to be a chance of thunderstorms and nothing lets loose. Right now, nothing is let loose down in the southern part of Missouri, but it's starting. So we're watching it very, very closely, because just as much as all the ingredients can be there to make our tornadic weather, they don't always come together just right. Now, let's take a look at this reported tornado here just south of DeKalb. This is a storm that I was showing you that had the big hook echo, and I said it's spinning, and we looked at the velocities, and then there was a warning issued, and boom, here's a tornado report. This is a report time was 2 miles northeast of Waterman, Illinois, in DeKalb County. The public reported a tornado. A trained spotter on the ground said there was one on the ground 2 miles northeast of Waterman. So that is a look at that particular storm. We're going to go right back to the radar data then and show you that storm and where it is now. That one is outside of St. Charles, and it will be on its way to the east. And let's see if it's still causing some trouble in the area. Me? Need a drink of water here. All right. Good to go for another minute. All right. Up radars. Go to Joliet. Here we go. So the storm that did prompt the warning, you got another one that's rotating over Pawpaw and Chabona. Let's take a look at the radar loop. This is more than I don't want 50 frames. Let's just go with 20 then. Okay, you can see the storms working their way through that, drifting north and easterly towards Sycamore and DeKalb. Last time we had a look at these storms, I was mentioning that DeKalb, you'd be getting the rain and hail potential, and that would be followed up by that risk for the rotating part of the storm. here it is. You got the pink core, the hail core over DeKalb. We've got the Cortland area, rather, that area seeing some strong thunderstorm activity. Let's get into the velocities on this storm and look at where that is. And that is really just right here. Again, what we're looking at is the radar is located in Lockport. A beam is sent out to the storm. Where we have the reds, that's motion away from the radar. Where we have the greens, that's motion towards the radar. So what you're seeing here, this motion away from the radar and all this red area, that is inflow into the thunderstorms. This is the hot, humid air going right into the thunderstorms and fueling them, okay? Now, where we have greens next to reds, that's right next to each other, we're talking about right here near Waterman, that is where we have some tight rotation. Although, that's the wrong way, okay? This would be rotation that would be clockwise, not counterclockwise. So this storm, if we loop back just a little bit, we're going to see where the strong rotation was originally. Here it was, moving through West Brooklyn, out there, and boom, moving right there over the Waterman area. That's when it was tornadoing. That's when the warning was issued. And you're looking at a timestamp here a little bit ago. So that moved right over Waterman. And now, and is now moving out towards the Maple Park area. So if there is still a tornado on the ground, it's going to be in and around or points just south of this I-88 corridor as we take a look through. Let me see if I can put up a look at a 4-panel here, and we'll look at some different products. We'll do that later. We'll do that later. We'll look at the warning from the National Weather Service and make sure we are passing along the warrant information for the storms. But it does look like there's still some rotation in it. It's just not as organized where it's tight next to each other, gate to gate, like it was before. It's more elongated and stretched out a little bit. So the tornado warned storm, the one that produced a tornado, is the one where we have this tornado warning up here for that area. That does include that area near the I-88 corridor there as you go into the Maple Park region north of Hinkley. That storm is moving up towards Cortland as well on the south side of DeKalb. So DeKalb, you are not in the tornado warned area, but there are some very gusty winds and some potential for hail with this storm as well. Now to the south of you, there's another tornado warned storm that's moving in. This is to the Shabona and Waterman area once again. Are we going to have a repeat performance there? Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're seeing on the Doppler radar with this particular storm. See if there's another fun radar to look at for this. I like the Jolly app. So let's take a look at this. Motion away, motion towards. So we have a couplet right here, not far from Waterman again. This is another storm, okay? So the one that did produce the tornado earlier, that one's drifted up to the north, and there's a warning for that. This is another one moving into your area in Waterman. So if you are in the Waterman area or on the Highway 30 or Interstate, that looks like, yeah, that's Interstate 30 corridor there. You'll want to be careful. This storm is dangerous. It's showing some signs of pretty tight rotation as well. The rotation is right here. Let me see if I can pull out my pencil. All right, let's see. Oh. Sometimes you get too many tools turned on with this software at once. Okay, so rotation showing up right in this general vicinity. The reds motion away from the radar, and the greens motion towards the radar. So it's not as strong and real tight there, but it's a very strong, this could be some outflow from the storm as well. A downdraft or an outflow from the storm, that's mixing with the updraft and causing quite a bit of shear and spin in the storm as it works its way in. So a dangerous tornado warned storm here. If we look at the National Weather Service's latest update for this particular warning here, the hail potential with this isn't as strong, 3/4 inch diameter hail. The warning is for another half hour until 7:15. It's for southern DeKalb County. It's capable of producing a tornado moving east at 25 miles per hour. It's located right over Shabana. Okay, so hazard will be a tornado, flying debris. Seek shelter in the interior room away from windows, and make sure that you're giving yourself some sort of information that can tell you when the all clear is with regard to that storm. Okay, we're going to put this back on the reflectivity data. Again, we have these active storms heading into the Chicago area tonight. We are seeing the initialization of a few storms not far from you in Springfield. We'll check in on those right now and just double check and see. Yeah, they're starting to take off just a little bit. not far from Osage Beach here. And we're also seeing a smattering of storms down south of Overland Park in Kansas City as we are heading into the evening hours. Look at the winds straight out of the north, and 50s there, 58 here, and only 40s just north of that. You get into Kansas City, it's 37 degrees. So we have a heck of a temperature gradient here where we have 30s mingling with some, well, I would like to call it warmer air. It says 32 here in the Lebanon area, but no, we got 76 here. So you got near 80-degree air here in the Ozarks, and you're looking at Kansas City with the 30s rocking its way through town. So up by 11, we're 37 degrees. So we have a lot of interesting signatures going on, a lot of clashing of air masses, and these could really fire very quickly now. With the upper atmosphere cooling off, that will destabilize the lower atmosphere as well. Okay, we're getting some other reports coming in here, so I appreciate your interaction. That's one thing that I enjoy here. Some reports from the Alabama area of some major damage from the storms. Pictures look catastrophic outside of Anawan. So thank you for chiming in with that. We'll go ahead and take a look. This was the storm that we were talking about here, that was working its way out of the Anawan area and working its way right into Watertown. And yeah, those storms, very bad. Look at the hail too with them, 1.7 inches in diameter with regards to those storms. So again, damaging storms that are going to be capable of producing tornadoes, have a history of tornadoes. We have 3 active tornado warnings flashing on your screen right now in red. These storms have produced a tornado on the ground here. In the public reported one on the ground 2 miles northeast of Waterman. Some reports of damage, although not confirmed. Some folks are saying, Joe Prince, thank you for your report, Joe Prince. I do appreciate it. Where are you from, Joe? Let me know in the comments. I love to talk to folks as we're visiting about the weather here. But essentially, these storms, as they made their way into the now what will be the eastern portions of northern Illinois here, are really spinning pretty good and have some signatures on them that continue to show some tight rotation. So here's a look at the Joliet radar area once again as these storms are moving in on Chicago. That Waterman area, you got another nasty cell with the pink right here. Get this just a little bit closer. This pink area, that is a hail core moving in. Then you got this little tail coming down on the backside of that one. This area right in here, not far from Hinkley, that is an inflow area where we got a weak echo region. Again, it's hook echo-ish. And let's take a look at some velocities on this right now and take a look. I'm going to look at the base velocity from the radar here. We have some pretty strong winds and some pretty strong indications of tight rotation here right near Maple Park right now. This is not storm relative, but just the base velocity. So from Cortland through Maple Park right now, this is a pretty intense couplet right here where you have strong wind moving toward the radar in the green and strong wind moving out away from the radar near Maple Park. So that rotation is exactly over the I-88 corridor right now as it bends to the south-southeast there, just off to the west of you in Caneville. Here's a look at that. That's a pretty tight looking couplet showing up there. Now, what's interesting about what we're seeing in the Waterman area, that line of storms, see this big batch of blue here, and query some of these velocities here. Whoops. So, yeah, we're looking at some winds that are off the surface now, not on the ground, that are 70 miles per hour. So some gusty straight line wind potential from this. So let's go back to our velocity. And what I'm seeing on the radar display here is this. It's a little bit different echo. See this backward C shape? That's more of a bowing segment, and this too could be a little bit more bowing from an outflow from the storm. So when the hail falls out of the storm, we get that dense cold air moving out and gusts of wind forward, and we get a push or surge of air. And the wind off the ground that the radar's picking up now is over 60 or 70 miles per hour. So I'm suspecting that in the Leland area here, and areas just off to the west of the Chicago area, Hinkley, Sandwich. Okay, these areas, I'm going to pencil these in. This area right here, this is a backward C shape, and that is a bowing line segment, and this is a heck of a hail core moving through there as well. We could be seeing some pretty significant hail. I don't know what the DBZ height is. I'll look at that later, but right now what we're seeing is backward C shape and a straight line wind is what I'm seeing from this particular storm. There is a tornado warning concurrent with that, and there is certainly a risk of a strong tornado with this particular cell too. But let's not make a mistake about it. There's going to be some very strong winds on the outflow side of this storm that'll be moving in the general direction of Hinkley and Sandwich as well. So let's erase my pencil marks here. Let's erase this, and let's get back to looking for the rotation in the storm. Waterman, again, Hinkley, this whole area under the tornado warning. There was already a previous storm there in the Waterman and Hinkley area that produced a tornado on the ground, and that storm continues to blow through. It looks like very strong winds to me. Let's take a look at the storm relative velocity. We still do have some what we call gate-to-gate shear here near Hinkley and Waterman once again, almost in the same area as that last rotation. And then there's that backwards C shape that you would call a bowing segment as well coming from that. So very gusty winds, both straight line and potential tornadic in that Hinkley area right along that Highway 30 corridor there. Hinkley to Big Rock is where that storm is moving right now. Very dangerous storm, very windy. It also has a history of some sizable hail with it as well. Now, if you are looking out to the far east here out towards Sterling, let me turn that off and take a look for another radar out here. Let's go to the Davenport radar, shall we? The Davenport radar showing these storms on the backside, motion towards in green away here. There is some general shear in the storms, but nothing as tight as what we're seeing out there by the Waterman. By tight, I mean close together. Reds and greens that are bright immediately next to each other. That's some real tight spin. Birmingham, Alabama. Joe, thank you very much for your report, and thank you for keeping us up to date. And I appreciate you chiming in with me here on Hutch's weather. Again, I appreciate it. We're just passing along some information here from a perspective of a meteorologist as these storms are moving in. And if you do live in these areas, you'll want to go to your local sources for information. But this is real time now. We've got 3 active tornado warnings from Hinkley, DeKalb area, Maple Park, and also on towards the Lily Lake area and Caneville, right across. Oh, and then we got a new one. So if you are in the Pingree Grove area, it looks like a new tornado warning in towards Gilbert's for this storm up here. Let me get a different radar. I don't like the one that I'm at now. Let's see if we can pick this one up here. Just a little bit. There we go. Okay. This radar is a little closer. My goodness. Okay. So if you look with me, you see this little bite taken out of the storm just outside of Pingree Grove right here. That is a very strong hook echo that's developing right now outside of Burlington and Hampshire, moving in towards Gilbert's. We also have that. Let's take a look at the spin in this storm. Rotation can be looked at by the Doppler radar here. Oh, this one isn't available for me, so I can't look at the rotation from that particular radar. Let me see if I've got another one that's moving up. Okay. So this looks like the best radar to take a look at the velocities. Okay, so base velocity here, we're seeing that rotation right here. The green is motion towards the radar, the red is away, so it's right in this area. It's the same areas that we were seeing that, what we would call the hook echo. So there it is. It's moving in on the Starks area and Briar Pines, and the National Weather Service's comment on these storms. It's a radar indicated tornado warning for Kane County, the northern reaches until 7:30. The storm is moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. Is located over Pingree Grove right now, is capable of producing a tornado. So that storm is quite strong, most of these storms that are moving in toward the greater Chicago area right now. Carpenter also seeing strong storms in towards Gilbert's. So dangerous storms in and around Burlington Hills. You have this the rotation right here where the hand is over the Pingree Grove area. And the warning is in effect here until the 7 o'clock hour and just after 7:30. So now as we zoom down and zoom out, and we can take a look at where all these pink boxes are, like we have a huge tornado warning here. Okay, so for this storm here, moving through Hinkley and Sandwich, they have just upgraded this warning. And this is the one that looks like, to me, we have a solid wall of very, very strong inbound winds toward the radar site here. If I go to this radar, it's a little bit closer to this particular storm. So looking from Lockport here and Hinkley, look at the pink on that storm. This is going to be the updraft. That's going to be the hail potential with this storm that will be quite high. If I look at some of the DBZ values, we're looking at greater than 60 in the lowest level scans there. And as we take a look at the velocity now, I'm going to go straight base velocity with this just to look at how fast the winds are blowing toward the radar. We're getting a very good look into the storm. So as you take a look from this radar, we're looking right into the meat of the storm. Do you see the backwards C shape to that there too? So this storm is going to have that tornado risk, but it is also going to have a huge damaging line of straight line winds potentially from this storm. And I say that because some of these velocities that we're seeing off the ground are over 60, even 70 miles per hour. And we're seeing that just off the ground. So the radar has a beam that shoots up into the atmosphere. Not always do the winds that we're seeing at the cloud level make their way down to the ground. But when we talk about downdrafts out of the storm, and rain and hail shafts, some of that energy absolutely can and often does make its way down to the ground. So we have the potential for some wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour, as you're seeing here. These winds will be coming at you almost straight out of the west, okay? So you prepare for those winds. You'll want to seek shelter in a sturdy structure, get to the lowest floor possible, stay away from any windows, put as many walls between you and the storm as possible. Okay, everyone, it looks like we, James Spann says oh yeah, Dixie, I know of James Spann's work, and I couldn't agree with you more. He does wonderful jobs, and if they have access to the data showing a damage, I'm not questioning that whatsoever. All right, let's take a look at what we have going on with this storm. Gusty straight line winds, a bowing segment along with rotation in this storm. And as we take you in just a little bit closer here, let me see, I'll have to get rid of my pencil again. And off that, we'll zoom in. Okay, do you see this area right here by Hinkley, right on that Highway 30 corridor, where we have bright reds next to the blues here? This is where we have some very strong spin type motion showing up with this particular storm. So that storm, as we look at the National Weather Service warning on that, is a tornado warning for northern Kendall, southern Kane until 7:30. The storm is capable of producing a tornado located over Hinkley and near Sandwich, moving east at 40 miles per hour. So near Hinkley and Sandwich, 40 miles per hour. Let me here that off. I want to move the screen, not measure. Sorry about that. Sometimes this software can't. I have too many things on right now. So let's see. All right, so in the location that we were just looking at with regards to the spin and the storm, with it moving in this general direction at 40 miles per hour, not 403 miles per hour, let's go with 40. That's a little more accurate. These are the areas that will be in the path of this storm. So it is basically over Little Rock, Big Rock right now, and it's not only the rotating part of the storm right here that has the shear with it, but we also have gusty straight line winds that are at the apex of what we call this bowing line segment right here. So from Bristol through Montgomery, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, the storm will be right on your doorstep with this gusty straight line winds, potential tornado, and then we'll have that hail risk with this storm as well. On towards Oswego as we go into about 20 minutes out. South Park by around 20 minutes, and Aurora, Illinois as we go into the 20-minute time frame as well. So according to this algorithm here, there's about 1 million people in the path of this particular thunderstorm right now. So if you are in the path of this storm that's making its way right towards Naperville, right towards the area of Chicago, we want you to heed the warnings in Aurora and in Naperville. You have time now to seek shelter in a sturdy structure and make sure that you do your best to get to the lowest floor possible. You have time in places like Aurora and Naperville. We don't want you driving in a storm like this, but you can get out of objects or mobile homes, manufactured homes, and into something much more sturdy. And that's what we recommend. If the structure that you are in has a basement, that's the best. If it doesn't, then the best advice is to get to the most interior room. I like to say put as many walls between you and the storm as possible. By doing that, then any flying debris has to go through more walls before it gets to you. Once you get into that interior room with no windows, with as many walls between you and the outside, then you get down as low as you can and you wait for the all clear from the storm. Now again, the storm does have some very intense winds showing up with it. Let's take a look at the spin in the storm with this as well. Yes, so basically the spin calculated by the radar on this is out near the Hinkley and Big Rock area in a very similar direction to where I drew that arrow from that you can see. So I'm pretty confident that that's where that tightest rotation is, and we have some very strong straight line winds here on this side of the storm moving in towards Montgomery, southern parts of Aurora as well. So this storm system here, pretty impressive with its strength and its winds that it's developing on the backside with the hail core falling out of the storm as well. So here it is. And we'll go ahead and let this loop so you can see the motion of this whole line of storms. It's working its way through Hampshire. There is the northern cluster of storm. Let me move this radar just down to the south, just a little. Okay, so storms are exiting Pawpaw. The main risk for you at this particular point from this batch is done. And you notice even out to the west of you, things are not firing off. It's in worked over air, if you will. Dixon, likewise, the rotating thunderstorm. You can actually watch these suckers just kind of spinning as they evolve into a cluster of thunderstorms. This is a complex now of severe thunderstorms. It's not just one. You've got all these little individual cells. This looks like it's evolving into what we would call a mesoscale convective complex, where they all kind of work together to create this giant wall of rotating thunderstorms. So on the south side, this storm moving into the Sandwich area that you see right here, that one has some very, very strong straight line winds. And you notice the pink hail core moving its way off to the east at 40 miles per hour. That warned storm is moving on a beeline right towards Aurora. But also, you notice the tornado warned area here as we go into Oswego. There is some indication that this storm is developing down to the south, as they often do, as they bite into some more unworked over air and get some new inflow that's created by the outflow from the winds of the storm. So it's developing down to the south. So we may see some of you folks down south of Oswego, south of Aurora, that end up in a warning for this storm as well. There is a severe thunderstorm warning for the area as well, but gusty straight line winds. Hail is going to be very sizable with the storm as well. Inflow into the storm, it's 66 degrees by Sugar Grove. You can see that the wind is blowing right into the storm here. That's the fuel for that particular storm. And it looks like, yeah, we're seeing this one kind of become more of a little bit of a left turner heading up towards Maple Park and the, let me get the Caneville area. So that storm right there, there's some rotation that's moving in on the Elburn area right here, where there's this little notch taken out of the storm. So we'll look back at the velocity again. Yep, there it is, Maple Park to Elburn. Some spin or shear there, and then you got this spin down here. So there's multiple areas of spin with regard to the storm as well. All right, it's going to be a very active evening or night of weather for my friends in the Chicago area. The storms are working their way right into Chicago right now. They look elsewhere now, just to not ignore what's going on. I'm going to turn on more of a national radar view here because we've been watching the development in Missouri. And will these storms fire? Will they take off? They looked like they were trying here. Now, Kansas City, temperatures in and around Kansas City are in the 30s right now, and that's clashing with air in the 70s in the Ozarks. Okay, so will they fire? Right now, we're not seeing that they're taking off just yet, but models did have them starting off about now. We do see some evidence of storms outside of Jefferson City and Sedalia as we look on the radar here, but nothing that is really too potent I want to look at the individual single site radar data here, and let's go right down here to Lee's Summit. We might even go a little bit farther south as we look in the southern part of the metro area. So we've got air in the 40s clashing down. It's got all north winds now. It's working its way down. Look at by my chair down here. We got temperatures. Ooh, St. Robert, you got 70s there. So we can find the cold front, find the cold front. Let's look in Springfield here and we'll see. You got temperatures in the 70s, south winds. We got better part of 70 degrees in Monet as well as you're looking down closer to that Arkansas border down there. So Joplin, you got some thunderstorm activity developing there over you. So the models do have this activity, and if it gets rooted in the surface moisture that's being blown up here by these south winds, then what we could have is a second area of strong to severe thunderstorms tonight in that region. So that's what's going on there. We'll continue to monitor this from time to time, but right now the most active field of weather is taking place near Chicago. What's going on near Rochester, Minnesota? We do have a good old-fashioned winter storm that blasted through the Fargo area as a blizzard. Now Owatonna out towards Rochester, we have rain changing to snow. Temperatures falling out of the 60s yesterday in southern Minnesota, as now in the teens there. So some wind and snow with regards to those areas. Was a blizzard warning earlier today up in the Fargo area. Now they're watching out for some nasty cold weather in North Dakota and northern Minnesota areas out there. Stormy weather in the Rocky Mountains as well. These winter storm warnings are still in effect for the mountains outside of Colorado. Say watching West Elk Mountains until 11 o'clock this evening. So travel could be difficult. Widespread amounts of 1 to 3 additional inches of snow on top of their forecast amounts that were the better part of a foot or more. So if you look at the Grand Junction radar there, we see that the snowfall looks like it's tapering off just a hot pinch. Now we got pink up here in the mountains outside of Reno. Pink is never good on Hutch's maps. That's a blizzard warning. So in the Santa Anas out there outside California, we've got a blizzard warning in effect, and this one is in effect for basically the western slopes of the Sierra Nevada, elevations above 2,000 feet. Extremely dangerous travel, blizzard conditions, Friday and into Saturday morning. So this is out in the future here yet, as we're still just getting into Wednesday. So they're issuing a blizzard warning days in advance there for the mountains that have been just hammered and pummeled with snow. Feet of snow in the mountains in California. The warnings continue all the way up the Pacific coast, all the way to Vancouver for winter storm conditions, for yet more stormy weather on the west coast. We do have a lot of flood warnings too taking place up here in the parts of Maine and off to the areas north of Bangor as we look up in that area. So nationally, our concerns are right here. Now, the yellow counties, just so you're aware, that is a tornado watch that's been issued by the Storm Prediction Center and the local National Weather Service offices. The tornado watch, just so you know, is in effect for portions of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, also Wisconsin, the extreme southern parts, and Lake Michigan until 10 o'clock Central Time tonight. Tornadoes, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts will be possible. We just showed you a storm that was moving in on the Aurora, Illinois area that would be possibly capable of producing some very serious straight line wind gusts with those storms there. So that's what we have going on. It looks like a long night for the Chicago area as these storms are moving through. Waterman, a tornado reported. Here was another tornado report. Okay, this one was reported just moments ago. Okay, Kane County. This is in a storm chaser reported. Photo was shared by the storm chaser near Hinkley of that particular tornado. So another tornado from the storm, as we talked about it, moving right along that Highway 30 corridor towards Big Rock now. That appears to be the most active of the storms there. Let's get the radar data back on in the right place here. Let's get the one that I like. What do you want? Let's pick, well, we could go to the airport here and see. Okay, let's check this one out. Okay, I like this radar because it's looking right into the storm that's blowing right towards Chicago. And that gives us a better look at the winds as the storm is moving right towards you. If you got a storm that's moving parallel to you, you're not going to get a good measurement of the winds. So this is, I think, a better radar to take a look at. See this sandwich storm here? See this little area right here? This is starting to look like we're getting a development on the southern flank that has a little hook shape to it, okay? Not uncommon. We have a spinning atmosphere out there tonight, so that's one area of concern in that area, and that isn't tornado warned yet. Is there rotation in that area of the storm? I'm going to look just at the base velocity, and yep. You see that red dot right there near Plano? That's some evidence of some shear and spin in that storm on a very, very tight or small scale. So something to watch for on the southern edge of that storm near Plano. I do want to point this out here. Just looking at the velocity data, you can see this outflow from the storm. Right here's the leading edge of it. It has a backward C shape. We're going to be seeing some wind gusts from this storm outside near Sugar Grove that are going to be just ridiculous, upwards of 70 miles per hour. And in fact, I can turn my pencil off and take a look at what the radar is measuring for wind speeds aloft, above the ground. And it's measuring 70 plus mile per hour winds above the ground. That's not necessarily what you're going to measure on the ground, but energy from thunderstorms can be translated to the ground very quickly as well. Strong winds along that backward C shape or bowing segment of storms. So that's one thing. These storms are going to be capable of some very strong winds. Can you do Rockford, please? I live there. Enrique, you bet. Rockford, Illinois. Let's go up north here. And we got to tell you that up there in Rockford, let's take a look at your radar. You got a couple of bolts of thunder. You now have switched over to a north wind, and this is telling. With a storm like this moving through, when your wind switches directions like that to the north, that can be a telltale sign that you're going to have more drier air moving in. So the risk is, I won't say zero, you're still in the tornado watch, but let's go ahead and take a look at what we're seeing here. We get to the Eldridge or the Davenport radar. Let's take a look. There is a storm north of Rockford. Let's go ahead and move that. You're looking at that. It's moving from southwest to northeast there in the flow. And let's see. There it is. Okay, so that particular storm is just firing off right now. You've got north winds through your area. There's no south winds fueling that particular storm right now. In other words, the warm, moist air, the inflow for these storms, if you can see here, is coming from Joliet. That's what's fueling this line here, okay? So that's sucking up the hot, humid air from the south. That's cutting off your flow of that in that particular cell. I'm not saying it's not going to be severe. You still are in the watch area, but as we take a look at that particular storm, let's see if there's any rotation in it. Let me see if I've got a better radar to use too. So, well, we could go up to Milwaukee. Let's do that. See if we can pop that radar on here. All right, let's take a look at this. That's too small. That's not going to do it. Let's go to this one again. Okay, so let's look at some radial velocity here, and we'll take a look at that. I want storm relative, and we'll take a look at that. All north winds. One thing to know is at the surface, we got a weak north flow with that particular system. Aloft, the winds are from the southwest. Okay, so there is some shear in your atmosphere, and that's why you have a tornado watch. But right now, that storm is not in an optimal position to see a tornado develop. So that's my opinion on the Rockford area at this particular time. There's a storm forming south of Beloit and just off to the west of Rockford, Illinois. That storm is producing a little lightning. As far as the intensity of the storm goes, we're starting to see the potential for some small soft hail and just a little lightning with that storm right now. I hope that, Enrique, answers your question there. Will it hit Gurney and Waukegan? And I got to tell you, this is mainly heading, well, if you look at up here, Waukegan is on the north side. So we're starting to see some weaker echoes up on the north side, but this core of storms right here is moving in your general direction. Let's go ahead and loop this. I don't want to see 50 frames. That just takes too long. Let's do 30 frames. You're going to see this cluster or complex of thunderstorms, and it's going to be moving in a more northeasterly direction. But on the north side of these type of systems, well, I'm not going to say they are not going to be severe, but a lot of times the energy is robbed by what's going on down here. So yes, the storms are heading towards Waukegan, and there is some rain and heavy rain at that making its way into your general direction. We do have an active tornado warning, and it's not too awful far from you, and you do have a tornado watch. But the strongest cells are focused just south of you here. Now, they are drifting just a little bit to the north and east, so we'll watch that closely. And yes, there is a risk of some tornadic thunderstorms in your area, but the chances will be better just south of you. Do you see this little backward C shape? I'm going to get to the most recent scan here. Here we go. So from the Wayne area here, South Elgin and Elgin, all the way through North Aurora and Aurora, this backward C, that is the area where we have the basics for all of the ingredients, if you will, for more rotation. It's rotating up here, don't get me wrong, but the energy that's being used up by these storms may indeed help keep you from seeing things as strong. It does look like to me, in my opinion, that these storms on the south side are strong. Now, please have your local National Weather Service information handy. I've got it on the screen here for you. You are in the tornado watch. Keep that in mind. Kenosha as well. And we do see this little cell out here near the New Rockford area. We're going to keep our eyes on that for you. If that one does happen to start drifting off to the north and east, we'll watch it for some spin. Right now, the main event is right here moving through Elgin, Carpentersville. There's a tornado warning for that area. Let's get in on this area here so that I'm not neglecting it. I'm seeing this. The reflectivities on these particular storms a little bit lower. Let's make sure I'm not getting... see if I can get this radar. Yeah, I like that radar a whole lot better. Okay, so now I can see that the reflectivities aren't as weak as they were looking. Okay, Carpentersville, all toward Gilbert's, we do have a storm. I see this little backwards twist here. This looks like this could actually be, that has the faint appearance of a debris ball out there by College Park and Knowles. Let's take a look at the velocities. Yeah, so we've got this little notch or bite taken out of the storm right over Elgin right now. And this area right here where you see the reds could be where we have the velocity and the spin with the storm that's capable of a tornado. So yes, right over Elgin right now, there could very well be an indication of very tight rotation there. That's just off to the, well, it's right over Elgin. So you want to be in your safe place. Look at this up here too by Carpentersville. There's another area of rotation that's very tight right here. So along this line, I see two couplets, one by Carpentersville, one by Elgin, that both could be capable of a tornado in this one warned area for a tornado warning. So keep that in mind. This whole area is got dangerous conditions. And we also have evidence of some very strong straight line winds as well that could be exceeding 70 miles per hour. So the latest National Weather Service guidance on this one is for hail, 3/4 of an inch in diameter. The hail isn't the severe type of problem, but this storm moving northeast at 15 miles per hour is tornado warned until 7:30 for the next 15 minutes. And we still have the evidence there that there's some rotation on that storm. I just showed you where that was. I do still think that that one is a risk and a threat. And that one is the one that's moving more towards Waukegan, right? So, Tina, that one would be the one to watch for now that's moving in your general direction. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning, by the way, for you folks just outside of the Rockford, Illinois area for that storm we were showing you moments ago. The main risk for that storm right now, as we take a look, is going to be 1-inch diameter hail and some winds gusting upwards of 60 miles per hour. So this storm warning expires in about 40 minutes or so. It's moving fairly slowly the way things are looking. Remember, we only had about a 10-knot wind up on that side of the storm. So let's take a look at what the movement is. 5 miles per hour, flooding, right? You get thunderstorms like that moving at 5 miles per hour, flash flooding is going to become a significant problem on that particular storm that is making its way right now into the general direction of the western side of Rockford, Illinois, Winnebago, and also up towards Sherland. So you're not seeing radar data here because that one is a little bit too far away from the radar that I selected. Let's go up to this radar. No, it's not good. Let's go ahead and look at the long-range reflectivity. There we go. So very heavy rain, 1-inch diameter hail. Is a rotation, and it's off a long ways from that particular radar. I'm not sure the best radar here to look at that storm was going to be maybe Davenport. It's where I live, we call this no man's land. You get kind of halfway between storms there, and it's quite a ways away. So the velocity data isn't quite as clear, particularly on a muddled day like today where we've got so much activity. So let's go ahead one more time and look at this particular radar out of Davenport. I'll see if I can turn on the velocity data for that particular storm. Now, this is way up high in the sky. We're way up there. It's too muddled to really garner any good information off of the base velocity data. Let's take a look at this. There is some very weak spin in the storm that's moving outside of Rockford. It's moving so very, very slow. There's not a lot of strong gusty winds flowing into it. Here we go. Updated information on the storms that's produced a couple of tornadoes now. You see a new tornado warning here for the St. Charles area, West Chicago, Bloomingdale, heading into Schaumburg. Let's take a look at this. The National Weather Service warning, let's get that 3/4 inch diameter hail. So the hail risk is starting to wane just a little bit with a couple of these cells. Northeast of Page County, northwestern Cook County, rather, in northeastern Illinois until 7:45. Now, what are the risks with this storm that's capable of some tornadic activity? And it's located over Geneva, and it's moving northeast at 50 miles per hour. That puppy's moving along at a pretty good clip right now. So here's your rotation right over St. Charles. You got this area of greens next to red. That's what the radar is seeing. It's over Geneva. It's over St. Charles. It's over Wayne. And that's where the rotation is right now. So where we see the greens next to red, that's our little velocity couplet. It's a Doppler indicated tornado right now. It's moving northeast at a ridiculous clip of 50 miles per hour. So here is a look at where that puppy is moving here as we go through time. Again, right here is the center of the rotation, moving north and east at this clip at 50. I'm going to put it at 52 miles per hour. I'm doing that for a reason. As a meteorologist, I know the data that I'm looking at is just a little bit time delayed. And you're getting it time delayed because of broadcasting, right? Tina, thank you so very much. I appreciate you watching. I hope you got some information you liked. I appreciate you liking the videos and sharing my name with friends. And it looks like E-Rich AM Radio. E-Rich AM Radio. Thank you very much. Your friend lives in Springfield, Illinois. What's the outlook there, please? Well, it's heading in the general direction of Springfield. Let's talk about that too. The southern part of Illinois definitely has some concerns. I was elaborating just a little bit on why I chose a faster speed. There's a little bit of a time delay here in broadcasting, right? There's a little bit of time delay in me getting the radar data compared to sitting right there at the National Weather Service office. I do not want to feed you old information. I do not want to feed you incorrect information. If you're in the path of these storms, seek shelter in an interior room, stay away from windows. Tornado warning from storms that have a history of producing some tornadoes already. If you are in Wayne, the storm is over you, and in Bartlett, it's over you as well. It says 7 minutes. No, give yourself a 5-minute grace here on this, because that's how long sometimes the data takes to get from the radar to me back to you through the broadcast, okay? So let's think about this in those terms and not pretend that this is live and exactly where the storm is right now. Hanover Park, 5 minutes. It'll be in your neck of the woods as well. I can scroll down the list here for more communities as we go through Elk Grove Village within about, well, let's go with 15 minutes. Itasca within about 10 to 12 minutes. It'll be over you. The population impacted by that one little rotating couplet, all these little white dots you see, about 1 million people, okay? Chicago, you are in the mix. The line of storms is making its way towards you right now. And so basically the metro area here is absolutely under the gun for seeing some pretty strong storms and severe ones at that. Now, whoops, pardon me. Let's look down south. We had a question about whoops, I got to turn some of my tools off. Apologize for that. Okay, so let's get down to southern part of Illinois. Let's go down here. Let's look, there's Bloomington, there's Hannibal, there's St. Louis. Okay, right now, your temperatures in and around St. Louis are in the 70s. So all of this area is juiced and it has a lot of moisture available to it. You got some cold air on the way, and we are expecting things to potentially get a lot more active in the St. Louis area tonight as we get a little bit later. But that does highly depend whether we can get storms to fire as well off to the east. So keep that in mind. Here's Springfield, Bloomington. Let's take a closer look. I'm zooming out. I know I said closer look, but sometimes I like to get the far out picture here. Okay. I'm going to need another cup of water here. Okay. So as we look in from Decatur, Bloomington, Southern Illinois, nothing firing just yet, but the forecast models for Hannibal, Quincy, off towards the St. Louis area, we're expecting to have that potential for storms, but it's a little bit later. Springfield, Missouri, that I don't think is the Springfield you were talking of. I think you were talking about Illinois. Just wanted to double check. I'm looking at the notes here. Munster, Indiana, looking for that as well. Okay, let's get a look at that. Right now, as we switch radars across the area, we can see that basically we have fairly quiet conditions through most of central and southern Illinois at this time. As we go up to the north, that's where most of the activity is. I'm going to do a quick look into Indiana here. Okay, so as we go in, Gary, you're right on the edge, and we do have the tornado watch in your area. Let me get a radar that's a little bit farther south. Let's look at Overland Park here. There is nothing that is developing south of Aurora right now that's showing up on this particular radar display. Let me pull this one up and see. No. So all of the activity is right now focused here. There could be some development to the south. We've been talking about this little phalange that's sticking out south of the storm there near Oswego. These storms are forming to the south. This is an ideal area for an inflow of rotating updrafts right here. We kind of got that hook shape to the echo, not far from the Yorkville area, not far from Oswego as well. So those areas are seeing some storms. That's going to be moving in on Lockport. Speaking of which, let's see if I can turn that radar on. Here we go. Let's see if we can look at the velocities on that particular storm as well. I am seeing, oh boy, it's all unidirectional flow. What do I mean? I'm seeing greens next to reds, but look at this. They're this way. They're horizontal. So we don't have wind this way. We got wind blowing away from the radar. That's the inflow into the storm. And this is the outflow out of the storm. So that's what you're looking at right there. So that's unidirectional flow right there. Outflow winds, outflow dominant. And that storm there is going to be capable of some fairly strong straight line winds as it makes its way through. You do have a severe thunderstorm warning. We're looking at hail on the order of 1 1/4 inches in diameter and 70 mile per hour winds. I'll go over this for you folks in the area here and try to show you where we have the strongest winds right now. I'm going to go straight to velocity. We're going to go straight into the storm. And what we're going to do is highlight these winds. This is really close to the airport here, right? So we should be able to get a good feel for the wind speeds that this is picking up just off the ground. This is picking up 30, 40 mile per hour winds. The conversion's already been done. So that's what we're seeing here as we look at that Boulder Hill area just south of Aurora and Sugar Grove. Let me look at another velocity product here. How about base velocity? And this is also showing wind gusts in the lower levels of the cloud here that are around 40 to 50 miles per hour. Now, the warning is for 70 mile per hour gusts. That's certainly possible in isolated areas. Good to have you all on board. Cheryl, Liz, good to see you. Tina, thank you as well. And can you talk about Villa Park or Elmhurst? So let me take a look at that as well. All right. So as we look at the area here, that does have storms making its way right into that general vicinity. Let me turn the tools off. And again, as we look at Chicago here, let me try to get that marine warning out of the way. Okay, so we're looking at this area that has things moving in right now. Here is what looks like a couplet to me. Let me pick a different radar again, because I want to pick the one that's closest to the leading edge of the storms. So here we go, Bloomingdale, not far from that Elmhurst area here, right? So as we zoom in just a little bit, there you see Warrenville, North Aurora, West Chicago. Yeah, this area here has some very strong straight line winds. There's a tornado warning on this storm here. Let's take a look at the flow on that and the velocities and the spin and see what we're seeing. Look at base velocity with this. seeing a lot of unidirectional flow until we get up here north of Streamwood. Okay, so here is a pretty strong little what could be couplet of wind and shearing winds that's on the Schaumburg to Streamwood side near Elgin. And look at the brighter colors here near Carpentersville and Barrington. This one is quite strong indeed with its rotation. So we do have tornado warnings continuing. These are radar indicated tornadoes. There's a lot of population in these areas, and I can guarantee you there's people that are spotting these storms right now that are keeping their eyes on the skies for you. This one here looks like we could see some activity out of, but I'm not able to draw any more information from this particular radar. Nope, I'm not able to do it. So let's get rid of that radar and let's go to a different one here. All right, apologize for all the moving and maneuvering. I want to have one that is directly into the storm's winds if I can find one. Nope, I'm going to have to shoot north or south. So let's go to the Joliet. This one. Let's look at the okay, yes. Now, we're going to be looking from this particular green dot radar location there, Lockport, straight up the line of storms. So we're looking for a little bit different look to the velocities here. I'm going to turn that on now, but we are seeing that West Chicago, Carroll Stream, Bloomington, Roselle, Schaumburg, those areas do have some tornadic potential to the storms. There's tornado warnings. Here's the storm relative velocity, West Chicago. And we are seeing, you know, some of the strongest winds and wind shears up here on this northern storm that's heading towards South Barrington, Inverness, Streamwood. And then there is some shear with the storm here in the Carroll Stream area. So looking at what the National Weather Service warning says here is probably our best tool to get you the best information. Northwest DuPage County, northeastern Illinois, and northwestern Cook County. Till 7:45. It's radar indicated tornado right now, and the warning is in effect until 7:45. So just another 10 minutes or so for that particular warned storm there in the West Chicago area. Now, if we look up to the northern storm, that wind speeds look a little stronger with that. They just issued a brand new tornado warning for a huge area. So this gets you Park Ridge, Des Plaines, Northbrook, all the way through Wheeling and Vernon Hills, all the way to Lake Forest. So let's get the latest from the Weather Service for 3/4 inch hail, radar indicated rotation. This warning will go for some time yet for Lake, DuPage, and Cook counties. Those are the counties included in the warning. It's not the entirety of those counties, so until 8:30. Brief rain-wrapped tornadoes will be the hazard. That's a very specific term. And that really does fit along with what we're seeing on the radar. I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So brief rain-wrapped tornadoes mean a couple of things, and I just want to talk to you here in the path of these storms. You're not going to be able to look out your window and see anything. It's dark. You've got rain and hail in these storms with very gusty straight line winds. And those gusty straight line winds are in an environment where we have some spin, and they can pick up these, whether you want to call them gustnados, they're tornadoes still, and they're usually shorter lived tornadoes, but that's what we're kind of seeing along this line. So we've got this line and this outflow working all the way from Cary and all the way down through Carpentersville, straight through Carroll Stream, where we got the green line here next to the red line. Some of the strongest spin and rotation that I see right now is in this area where we have the brighter greens and the brighter reds. So I'm going to go back to the reflectivity. And this data might be the best for drawing out where the best chance of seeing some of these spin ups will be. The warned area for the tornado is right here, all the way up the shore, Northbrook, Highland Park, all of this area. You see this backwards C shape? Okay. This is a Boeing line segment. We have outflow that's coming from the west and northwest, and it's punching into Elmwood Park. It's punching into the Roselle area and Schaumburg. Right now, there is very heavy rain and wind. because of this backward C shape where we have the apex of the bow. So if you think of this as a bow and arrow, okay, this little apex is right here. That is an area where we often have the strongest straight line winds. Where you have the strongest surge of straight line winds and there's slower winds next to it, we can get spin ups along that leading edge. Schaumburg might be one of the places that has some of the best chance. Itasca, Elk Grove Village. This area right here where we got the bite taken out of the storm, that might be one of the best chances there. There's another indication near Glendale Heights of this. They're very difficult to keep up with on the radar scans, changing from scan to scan, but that's what we're looking at here, is this outflow. Where this outflow bows or gets this backward C shape to it. I'll get my pencil out here once again. I'm going to get a bigger marker here. Show you, here's this backward C shape. West winds, west winds. Okay, you're going to expect gusty straight line winds. Those could exceed 60, 70 miles per hour. And there could be some brief tornadoes spinning up along this, anywhere along the line. So keep that in mind. Vernon Hills up north, towards Munderland and Lake Forest, we have thunder shower activity, but the strongest winds on the radar look to be right here. Our tool, our Doppler radar tools, are a fantastic tool for seeing wind if you can look into the wind. Okay, and one of the problems we're having here, we have the radars on the south side of the town, so if the wind is blowing this way and we're looking from the south, we won't be able to see the speed of the wind because it's across the beam of the radar. The radar can only tell us the wind blowing towards it or away from it. So really, I'd rather see a radar that would be located right here in Evanston. We don't have that, so maybe the best radar to look would be from behind this storm system. Multiple tornadoes reported. Let's get the folks in Beloit updated here. Rockton, Beloit, you're seeing a pretty strong, slow moving thunderstorm working its way through your area right now. Loves Park, Rockford. This long, elongated storm is a slow mover. It was moving at 5 miles per hour, which can mean some pretty heavy rain. Let's take a look and see what we're looking at for rainfall over the last hour in these areas. And we'll go ahead and, we'll query where this is. You know what? In the last hour, we've got an inch of rain or whatever, but it is moving, and it's moving a little bit. So you're, as far as flash flooding goes, right now, it doesn't look like it'll be too much of a problem, except for those urban type situations there with some street flooding from a very, very slow moving storm that is really not connected to that main storm. So up to an inch of estimated rainfall from the Doppler radar on that particular storm. By the way, as we look in through here from the main event down here, now, these estimates can sometimes be corrupted by hail a little bit, and we know we had hail with these storms, but 2 inches of rain near Maple Park being estimated by Doppler radar means urban flooding is going to be likely in some of these areas. So 1 to 2 inches where you see this brownish color, yellowish color, and rain just now pushing in to parts of the shoreland area, Highland Park out towards Arlington Heights. Now, let's take a look at our pardon me, I'll look at some velocity data here if I can. I just want to look at base velocity, and I might skip radars, see if I can get some wind for you. Again, I'm looking from this wind that's to south. I want something a bit more looking into the storm, and I can't find that. So all I can tell you is in looking at this display, what you're looking at, a lot of color on here, right? So I am seeing this backward C shape right here, heading right through Naperville. You're going to expect some wind straight out of Aurora from the west, northwest. And these gusts could be locally very strong, upwards of 70 miles per hour. We've got indications in spots here and there along this leading edge of some rotation. Carroll Stream, there's a little evidence there. Schaumburg, there's a little evidence there. And in particular, we have some stronger evidence up here near Barrington of some of that spin inside that leading line from the storm. Barrington Hills, Deer Park, Inverness, these areas have that spin that's showing up right next to each other there. So these are the areas where we could be having that greatest risk for a tornado. But there's a tornado warning for the Barrington area. And then this entire block that extends from the Mundelein area, if I'm pronouncing that right, through North Chicago, through Gurnee, and south towards, well, Winnetka. Okay, so you're asking about that. how long will it take for these to get to you? Let me take it and answer that. So let's go ahead and do a timing on this. The tornado warning storms are basically moving at 35 miles per hour still. So now that I have that bit of information, let's go ahead and time out the leading edge of the storm here. We'll do it this way. Okay, so here's our gust front. This one in Bloomingdale is blowing right straight out towards the coast right here. It's moving at 35 to 40 miles per hour. We'll calculate. So in this quadrant of the cities, Churchville, now. The winds will be approaching you now. Stone Park within about 7 minutes. River Grove in about 10 to 12 minutes, it'll be near you. And Harwood Heights by around 15 minutes from now. Oak Park, 20 minutes. So those are some areas in the path of this. This portion of the storm is moving almost due east, right? Okay. Now, as we look up by Schaumburg, that's moving a little bit different direction. So let's take a gander at that. And here we go. This one moving more in a northeasterly direction towards Winnetka. As we take a look, put some speed on that. Whoops, pardon me while I get the right tool out. 30, calculate some cities. Okay, so this little segment of the storm near Schaumburg and not far from Roselle and Bloomingdale, this is moving off to the east-northeast a little bit more. So Forest River within around 10 minutes, it'll be near you. Northfield within about 12 minutes. Northbrook within about 16 minutes from right now. The gusty straight line leading edge of the storm and that risk for the potential tornado will be with you. We have a report of some 1-inch diameter hail as well, where you see these little triangles with the ones on them. That's what that is by Maple Park, 1-inch hail. Out here we have some hail near Huntley reported of 1-inch in diameter hail. And oopsies, let's go ahead and clear that. And now let's go ahead and time out this north side. We do have an area here near Burlington with some more intense winds. Barrington, Lake Zurich, this area here has quite a few indications of some spin and shear and ugliness to the wind field. It's not all unidirectional, not all one direction there. And because of that moving to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour will be in these general vicinities. We go through time. Okay. Time in. All right. Okay, so this particular quadrant of the storm from Barrington will be right over the Long Grove area in about 5 to 6 minutes, Buffalo Grove in about 10 minutes. And it'll kind of continue its trek off to the east as we go through Prairie View in around 10 minutes, Half Day 17 minutes, and Riverwoods within about 15 to 20 minutes. So you should be seeking shelter in your interior room, stay away from windows, and look at this storm as it continues its way through. Some folks are asking about the tornadic activity in the UK, global warming, El Nino. Well, we can say El Nino is something that influences our steering track of the jet stream as it works its way over North America. So in that aspect, yeah, the El Nino can have an impact to the weather. It also has an impact, the jet stream over the Atlantic, and then where it makes landfall into the folks out there over the big pond, as they say. So yeah, there is certainly some impact El Nino can have on the storm track across the nation. All right, so let's take a peek here at our reflectivity. Storms moving into Chicago, northern parts of Chicago right now, from Waukegan down towards Evanston. That is your lone tornado warning. The rest of the town is under a severe thunderstorm warning, where you have the orange counties here. Rockford, Beloit, you have a strong storm. This one is kind of building on its way up towards the, I believe that's the Janesville area in Richmond. So that storm is intense, it's very slow moving on the backside of this storm system. Mainly rain, and the temperatures there and the north wind on the north side of it have me a little less concerned about that particular cluster of storms. We'll take a break from the Chicago area briefly. Well, I'm going to put on a more national view to the radar here and kind of see if there's any firing going on down in southern Illinois. There's Springfield, Illinois. Nothing going on there yet. Nothing really firing off south of Kansas City yet. And this leads me to believe not that it's not going to happen, but it's going to be much later, probably 9 to 11 o'clock tonight before those things get rolling down to the south. So that's something good to know. Strong thunderstorms working their way through Chicago. Still a risk from this Boeing segment of storms, this cluster of thunderstorms, kind of a group of thunderstorms. When they do this, they kind of gang up, if you will, and they become a complex where they feed each other. We have 3 tornado reports from these storms. We have 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Sugar Grove. We were talking about that area as those storms move through. We were measuring the winds just off the ground at upwards of 70 miles per hour. So there was a measurement of 60. We had the Kane County tornado 3 miles northwest of Sugar Grove. We had another one that showed up here not far from Hinkley and Big Rock, 2 miles west-southwest from a storm chaser as well. And some reports in the Waterman area there of a storm. And I did get some reports that there are there's potentially some significant damage done by some of these storms outside or to the west of Chicago from tonight's storms as they work their way through from west to east. So almost through the Chicago metro area with this. Once this line works its way through and the wind becomes northerly, everything's going to change in Chicago and in Waukegan. And as we go north towards Milwaukee, it all changes. We're worried about a winter event for you then. All right, thank you so very much. I think I need to take myself a little break here, but I will stick with this storm here. In looking at this kind of fun generic radar, I want to point out that we've got this backwards C shape right here. You see that? Schaumburg, Arlington Heights, that's where the strongest straight line winds are likely to be when you have this shape on the radar. So straight line winds can be very damaging. And then along the leading edge, particularly here by the apex of the bow, is where we have the best chance at seeing those spin-ups, the brief spin-ups the National Weather Service was talking about. There is a chance of some up by Vernon Hills, and this Boeing line segment is moving right into the area of the tornado warning at this time. So let's go ahead and go back to the local radar. I'll kind of walk this through as we kind of finish up the coverage for the Chicago area tonight. There it is, Arlington Heights. There's that Boeing line segment. Down south of it, now there's some strong winds as well, folks, from Arlington Heights down towards Bloomingdale. See how it's more straight? That doesn't mean that you have calm conditions, but the outflow of these particular storms, these little individual thunderstorms, not producing the outflow that's as strong as the one over the Arlington Heights area right now. Naperville, you've got some strong thunderstorm activity. We're not seeing the high reflectivities that we were seeing earlier where we saw, well, upwards of 60 dBz from these storms. That's the level of reflectivity that the radar is seeing. That's good news. That's good news for hail size. That's good news for everything. This is turning into a very windy cluster of thunderstorms. We still have the risk for some embedded tornadoes in the rain. You're not going to be able to see them. So if you have family or friends or you're here watching in the Chicago area, these storms are making their way toward North Chicago. They will be pushing into LaGrange as well as Chicago. On the south side here, maybe down by Plainfield, we do have that risk of some strong storms there. As well, those are severe thunderstorms. The main threat is going to be gusty winds, upwards of 60, and in some of these storms, 70 miles per hour brief spin-ups as these storms work their way through and off into the lake. We head into the nighttime hours. Sirens just went off in Gurnee. Okay, well, thank you for that report as well. Now, that area has had a busy night, so thank you for your report. I sure appreciate that, Tina. Again, the storms can be kind of on that scary side. So again, the best advice I have for you is to make sure that you're staying in that secure area of your home, an interior room, staying away from windows. So we do have sirens going off as they should in the communities here where we do have the tornado warning and severe thunderstorms with straight line winds. Oh, we got a tornado report here. Let me get off on that here and take a look here. Another tornado report that was made here just moments ago, 10 minutes ago, Cook County, possible tornado north of I-90 in the Schaumburg area, estimated by radar. That's the one we were talking about when we saw near Schaumburg that there was that area where we had the best shear in the storm. Back to that view now as we can take a look. Well, let me get back to the single site radar data. That will help us get a little bit more detailed view to the radar data now. So here's a look at the reflectivity. Kind of give it a second to catch up. Oh, my apologies. There we go. Okay, so we've got a straight line of storms from Northbrook straight down toward the Bolingbrook area. Strong and severe thunderstorms, gusty straight line winds accompanying those storms. This one here is now moving out over the shore, and that is good news. But if you are out on the coast there, that's very gusty straight line winds as that moves offshore. The risk for any spin-ups will basically be from, well, now that that's moving offshore, more than likely it'd be best chance of Wheeling, Arlington Heights, Des Plaines, Elk Grove. We see just a little bit of a backward C-shape to stuff here. Some very gusty straight line winds will be likely from these storms. And let me see if I can see anything in the base velocity product that shows some areas of concern. And yeah, look at this right here. Vernon Hills, motion away from the radar on the south side right here, and then motion towards on the back side that isn't quite as strong. But we do have some very strong winds in and around the Vernon Hills area. This is all going to be wrapped inside that rain that we were seeing on the reflectivity report. That's heading in towards the Long Grove area, Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, Libertyville, pardon my mispronunciations, please. And looking at the velocity, let's go to the long range. Better. Boy, that's an interesting feature. Let me see if I can pull up another radar. I'm getting to be kind of picky at what radar I'm choosing, but I'm trying to get the best view into the storm. It might just be from Milwaukee here. Let's take a look. Maybe not. Okay, so what we're seeing here on the different radars is the ability to look at the storm. And does it look the same from the radar far to the south as it does to the radar far to the north? We've got a batch of the thunderstorms that are now off over the lake. We've got the batch that's still on over land here, Lake Forest, Vernon Hills, and those areas here. We do have some backward C-shape or bowing segments that are moving to the northeast through Lake Bluff. So that there, Libertyville, North Chicago, Lake Forest, that would be the area where we do have still a punch of some very strong straight line winds working their way through. So we'll keep that in mind here as we head into the evening hours. Tornado warning does continue for this area. That warning is in effect for the northern reaches near Lake Forest and Lake Bluff here. Let's get the latest on that from the Weather Service. 746 is the last time they gave an update, moving northeast at 50 miles per hour. Storm capable of producing a tornado. And that is about it. Radar indicated rotation. It's very difficult to pick out radar indicated rotation on this at this particular time because it is muddled. It is far away from the radar, and the radars are not looking directly into the storm at this particular time. They're looking alongside it. We have strong thunderstorms from now Beloit all the way north into Richmond and Palmyra out there as well. So those storms are very slow moving. If we loop the radar here over the last several frames, you'll see them start up not far from Rockford here, and then as they work their way through time, they have slowly creeped their way up into the Richmond area. Highland Park, Lake Forest, North Chicago, Waukegan, those are the areas of main concern for this cluster of thunderstorms with very gusty straight line winds, and you can actually see this counterclockwise rotation to the radar data as this storm has spun its way through over the last several frames, rather. So a lot of shear, a lot of spin in the atmosphere tonight, and the gusty straight line winds flowing out from these storms, causing this little surge right here that you see. That little surge that you see right there, that is a bow echo that's heading right toward North Chicago. That is where the strongest punch of wind will be. If you're in North Chicago, you're going to be noticing a wind that'll be quite strong, possibly in localized areas. It'll be from the southwest, southwest. So it's real interesting. We've had some portions of the metro area getting very strong gusty winds that would likely be, straight out of the west. This one's coming more out of the south. So keep that in mind as the storms move through. Overland Park, as we take a look at your radar, things are looking mean and nasty down towards Bolingbrook here, where we do have some potential for some hail. We're starting to see some pink reflectivities return into the radar scene there. We do have some bites taken out of the storm, some hook shapes. Not every hook shape means there's a tornado, but what we can do is certainly take a quick look at the velocities with regards to that and see if we're seeing any indication from the radar of that spin or shear. And I don't see anything too organized there. That's good news. That's more unidirectional type of winds that we're seeing there. So all in all, the tornado threat is not over. There is still a risk for some tornadic thunderstorms tonight in the tornado watch area. I do think that the risk of tornadoes in Dixon, in Oregon, and out towards Ottawa areas much lower now that the main event has pushed off to the east. The local National Weather Service office may start dropping some counties as the storms made their way from the Davenport area all the way into the Chicago area. Has a history of hail, a lot of 1 to 1.5 and 2 inch hail reports in and across the area. Tornadoes, a few of those reported as well. Active weather tonight for those folks in and around Chicago. I really do appreciate you viewing. If you liked what you saw, I really do appreciate it. We're going to take a little bit of a break here. The storms are moving offshore. Wind and thunderstorms could still produce spotty spin-ups here and there along the leading edge, and some very gusty straight-line wind potential from the storms as well. Later tonight, some more development is going to be possible as we look down to the south into southern Illinois, out into parts of maybe even the St. Louis area as we go into the later evening hours, say 9 to 11 o'clock here Central Time. Not seeing anything right now. That's the good news. Look at Dodge City, Kansas, getting whacked with some flakes soon. And Topeka, Kansas, seeing a little bit of mixed precipitation. Same thing for Des Moines as the cold air punches its way to the south and east. I'm Hutch Johnson. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you.